Hey y'all, I'm Chris with DFW Airstream, and this is a 2021 Atlas Tommy Bahama edition. We're going to start right here under the hood. Again, the secondary hood release being just to the left of the Mercedes symbol, we're going to push straight up right here. And we'll drop the little stalk and give it that support. These 2021 model diesels will require a diesel emissions fluid. You'll fill that through this port right here. It is a 4.7 gallon tank, and full should give you somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 miles worth of range. Behind that you'll find the engine coolant, and then this is the intake for the air conditioner. They have done away with the filter for that for the new models. Engine oil filled here, and this will be your engine air filter. We will find the engine oil filter under this cap here, but being a Mercedes, you're going to actually check the oil level on the dash. You will not find a dipstick out here underneath the hood. We'll fill our washer fluid underneath this blue cap right here. Outside under the hood, they've provided a place for you to connect a jumper cable for the engine battery. This is going to be the positive side right here. And over here against the fender, we'll find the negative one. It's this little brass post right there. The engine battery is actually in the driver footwell, and you have to remove the floor covering to access that battery. So if you ever needed to jump start the engine or possibly add a trickle charger, you'll want to do that under the hood. But I will mention that this van is set up so that the short power cord will charge the engine batteries, and they've added an additional solar panel. So now you have 4 100-watt solar panels, and one of the 100-watt solar panels is dedicated specifically to the engine batteries. Last thing under here we'll see are the air valves for the rear air suspension. This has a built-in air compressor, and the air suspension on these is automatic. But if that compressor fails and you needed to manually add air to the van to lift the rear up, basically just to get it on a flatbed, you'll add air here. It will be nearly 100 PSI to get it to move, but you want to set it to right about 100 PSI, and then you'll be able to load it up on a flatbed and bring it in for service and have that air suspension looked at. When we go to close the hood, you want to make sure that before you just pull down here that you have lifted up and return the stalk to the right place. If you pull on it too hard, it's going to break. Again, the front bumper is designed for you to stand on it if you need to wash the window or possibly change the windshield wipers. We'll come around the corner here. In the driver compartment, just a couple things I want to talk about. First is going to be the diesel fill. This is where you'll add fuel to the onboard fuel tank. It is 24.5 gallons. Please make sure you use diesel fuel. We'll have a little first aid kit and also a strobe light inside this little red bubble wrap. So if you've broken down, you'll be able to place this on the side of the road, especially at night, so somebody can avoid running into, your RV. They've moved the seat adjustment and the door unlock to the driver door now. So these seats are power instead of manual on the previous generation. We'll talk about the dash options some more when we get around the corner. Now I do want to mention with the slide out, you will still have access to your storage compartments below. And these are actually not 2, but 1. So this is one large storage compartment. There's not a divider here in the middle. These all lock when you hit the fob and lock the doors. So it not only locks the entry doors, it locks the storage compartments as well, with the exception of the one around in the other corner at the back, the one they call the golf club storage compartment, and it will lock with its own key. Next, we'll have the exhaust for the water heater. Down below, we're going to have the exhaust for the generator. This open compartment here is going to be your service compartment. In here, we're going to see that we've passed your power cord through the little port at the bottom, so that way you can actually close the door and leave it plugged in. Below that, you're going to see a cable inlet and a red switch that's called the fresh water valve. On this van, you will actually add water into the fresh tank through the city water connection, which is the only Airstream to do that. You'll notice I've got your water hose hooked up here to your city water connection. When you turn this on, you'll press this red switch over here, and that will divert water into the fresh water tank. Again, with that switch turned off, this will act like the regular city water connection that you're used to, so it's going to pressure up here, and then it'll pass water through to all the faucets on the van, including the outside shower, anytime you open one of those faucets up. Next to that is your waste clean out. In here, you do have a little water port that'll allow you to attach a water hose, and this is your black tank flush. So you can put water into the black tank as you're flushing it out. The black tank is the one that the toilet empties into, and that'll help you keep it a little cleaner. When you're doing your waste clean out, the first thing you want to do is pull the hose out. You're just going to pull it straight out, and then you're going to parallel this red valve to open it here. From there, you're going to hit the switch on the black valve, and you're going to push it until it opens. You can hear it whenever it's fully open. Always begin with the black tank valve, and then you'll actually turn a pump on here, and it's going to pump the waste out. This is a macerator pump, so it's kind of like a garbage disposal. It's sort of grinding the stuff that's in there up, help it come out of the hose a little better. You've got your fresh water coming in your waste port, so when you see the flow in this translucent hose go from muddy to clear, I want you to turn the water off with the pump still running. And when the pitch on the pump changes from low to high pitch, turn the pump off. That'll leave a little bit of water in that black tank, so you can add a chemical in there, and you've got a little bit inside, so it'll dissolve and slosh around in there as you're driving, help keep your waste tank cleaner. Close the black tank valve, and then you'll be able to open the gray tank valve. And then of course turn the pump back on, and on this tank you're just going to pump the water straight out. The gray tank is going to have mostly soapy water from your sinks and showers, so you want to do that one second so it'll help wash this pipe out. But again, you don't need to flush that one out. You'll just run the pump until you hear the pitch change to high pitch. Once it does, start looking at this hose. When you see the water start to chug through there, turn the pump off. You don't want to run the pump without water coming through it. Over time, if you do that, it'll cause too much heat. It's going to make the pump fail. Then again, you want to make sure you close the valve. And at this point, we're going to retract the hose back inside the compartment. When you do, make sure you wander it back and forth across that drum so it sits on there nice and flush. Just like that. All right, below that, we've got your propane service. This is the fill port and the bleeder valve, and they'll use these two when they're adding propane to the tank on board, and you'll turn the service on with this switch right here. This is going to power the water heater, the furnace, and also the range inside. Coming around the back corner, you do have a 2-inch receiver right here. There is a pre-wired 7-pin under there as well. All right, over here, we've got another storage compartment below. Not very big on this one, but you will notice that a little further below the compartment is another propane port. This is a pre-regulated port that runs off of the onboard tank. It is a low pressure service that will allow you to run a little camping stove or possibly a little space heater. Above that is going to be the golf club storage compartment, and they call it that because it goes way up in there. There's the roof right there, so it's at least as long as my arm is. This one will not lock when you hit the fob. You'll have to lock it independently with a key that is provided on your keychain. It will be the white handled one. Exhaust for the furnace right here. Now down here in Texas, these furnaces are susceptible to mud dauber wasps. They are attracted to the heat and the exhaust. They like to crawl inside there and build a little mud nest where it's warm and clog that up. We have a couple of screens that you can cover these with that'll keep those bugs out, and that is something that I highly recommend you add to your van. Below that, we'll find the compartment where they'll have the generator, but this one won't just open. It's got a latch here on the right-hand side. And then, of course, you'll use this stalk to prop the door open, but this is really just service access. This allows us to work on your generator if it's got a problem, change the oil, change the air filter for service. Coming back, we do have the engine exhaust coming out of there. And then this is what I would call the entertainment compartment. Now it has a little storage compartment all off to itself, but the one that's lit on the right-hand side has some ports here against the forward bulkhead that'll allow you to power a television. So you've got a dual AC port, just your standard 15 amp to plug the TV into. We've got an HDMI signal and a cable coax signal here as well. Inside the passenger compartment, not a whole lot to talk about. We will find an awning control underneath the seat. Now the awning can be controlled from the Firefly multiplex system or out here as well. So what we're going to do, since the awning is already out, we're simply going to press the retract button and fold it back in. Now I do want to mention the awnings on the van have a built-in wind sensor. So if you get a big gust of wind, it is going to fold in on its own. There's also a travel warning, and if you've left the awning or the step down or the slide out or the skylight open, you're going to get a warning as you drive away that you need to check and close whatever you've left out. We'll open the entry door here. You'll note that the step comes out. Inside, we're going to find a switch that says step hold. We're going to turn that on, and that's going to leave the step down when we close the door. That way, early in the morning, if you're groggy and you're not paying close attention, you don't take a header as you come out of the van. One thing I do want to mention about these steps, please do not make the mistake of standing on the step and closing the door. If you don't have the step hold on, the step folds in almost immediately. There's a little shear pin in there, and if you're standing on it, you're going to snap that shear pin instead of fold the step in. We're going to head on inside. Now, by the entry, I also want to mention you've got the main battery disconnect switch, and that's the one right next to this little red light. This is how you'll turn the 12-volt power on in the trailer. So we can turn it off, turns the trailer off, and this is what you'll do when you're storing the unit. And then, of course, flipping it back on just turns it right back on. All right, we'll come up over here to the Firefly. Just for a second, we're going to turn the overhead lights back on by holding this on button right here, just like so. Now back over here, I do want to mention that we'll find the TV lift button here. So let's move the remote. This is the remote for the window shade, and it's very easy to use. You simply press up, and now the entertainment shade will come up. And you'll cycle through the two different shades with this button right there. But these shades, the forward one here and then the one behind the Murphy bed, are automatic, and they will control from this remote. Now I do want to mention that we have the TV lift here as well. Now you will have to press this for kind of a long second instead of just pressing it. Just pressing it like that won't get it to come up. You've got to hold it for just a second. All right, now we'll come over here. And in this upper compartment, we're going to find quite a few controls. Starting in the top left corner, you've got your power control system. So it's set for a 30 amp service, and this will run off of a 30 amp service, but it also will run off of a 15 amp service, just your standard wall plug. If you have it on a 15 amp service, I want you to select that 15 amp service. That way you don't overload any of the circuits in here. It will automatically switch over to the generator when you start the generator. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Before we get there, I want to mention your sea level monitor is here. This is going to give you your battery voltage, and that is 13.3 volts in your battery. Fresh tank is roughly 18% full. Gray tank is also 18% full, and the black tank is 9% full. Below that, we'll have the generator power. This generator can be controlled from the Firefly system, but you will have to power it with this red button initially. It's going to say wait to start. When that goes out, just hold the start button down. The generator fires up like that. Now this generator in the Atlas is a diesel generator, not a propane generator. It's running off of the same fuel as the engine. However, they've designed it so that it will not run your engine completely out of fuel. The intake or the pickup for the diesel generator is at 1/4 of a tank. So if the fuel tank for the engine is at less than 1/4 of a tank, your generator is not going to start. Below that, we've got the slide out switch. So this will slide the switch in or out, and this is the main switch, but it can also be done from the Firefly, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Next to that, we've got the stabilizer jacks. Now we'll turn the system itself on like that, and then we'll just hit extend. The stabilizer jacks are going to come down on their own, and they're going to stop once they've got enough resistance on them, but there's only two. They're mounted amidships, and they're coming down like this. Once they're down, you'll feel the van rock just a little bit as it levels. Again, you don't want to drive away with these down. You will trigger that travel warning, so we'll just bring them back up by flipping the switch here. They're going to come back up on their own. I am going to recommend that once they're all the way up, that you bump that switch a couple of times just to make sure they're fully seated, to prevent that travel warning from inadvertently going off when they're actually up. All right, now they're back up. We're going to bump the switch a couple of times on the retract just to make sure they're seated, and then we're going to turn the system itself off. Next to that, we're going to have a little switch that's operated from a key, and it says battery heater. This van has lithium batteries. So lithium batteries don't work very well when it's really cold. Anything less than 30 degrees ambient temperature, you want to make sure you turn the key switch here on to start the heaters inside the battery, so that way you have full capacity and 100% efficiency. Next to that, you'll see the solar monitoring panel. This van has 400 watts of onboard solar. 300 watts are dedicated to the house, keeping the house batteries full, and then 100 watts is dedicated to the chassis battery or the engine battery. Above that, we have your inverter. Now, I know this inverter's got a whole lot of buttons. There's only one on here that you ever really need to push, and that's going to be this one right here in the bottom left to turn the inverter itself off and on. Now the inverter is on. The inverter is going to provide an alternating current service or an AC service when you're boondocking and you don't want to run the generator or you can't plug into a shore power. All you're really going to get out of this inverter is power for the television, and it will power the plug up where the DVD player could be mounted. And that's basically it. It is just a 1,000 watt inverter on this van. When you're plugged into the shore service, or when your generator is running, those items already provide an AC service, and you will not need to have the inverter on in those situations. All right, we're going to close this door here, and then we're going to talk about your Firefly system. Now this is the multiplex system. This is the home screen. From here you have the master light switch. This will turn off the interior lights, not the exterior. And you also have some dimming options. So you've got the low dim, you've got a medium dim that's a little bit brighter, and then there's a cinema mode. The cinema mode is going to draw the shades when they're up, and it's going to turn the inverter on. It's facilitating you watching a movie. Now if you can't remember what dimmer you're set on, just hold your finger on the on button here and it will reset at full brightness. Again, from here you can extend or retract the awning, and then this is the HVAC display. When you're running the HVAC, you'll have a little icon here on the right-hand side that'll tell you whether it's on furnace or whether it's on air conditioner. It's going to be a snowflake or a little flame. And you can actually adjust your target temperature with these arrows right here, and of course display the internal temperature in between. Tanks are displayed here again. They feed from the sea level monitor in this panel. So if for some reason this is not working, you'll still be able to check the levels on the sea level. Again, 18, 14, empty and full on your propane. These water tanks have heater pads at the bottom of them. So if you're driving somewhere where it's below freezing, or if you're camping somewhere where it's below freezing, you can turn these pads on. It'll keep the water in your water tanks from freezing. Again, that red switch that's outside can be actuated from in here. That's the autofill. And I will recommend that you use the switch in here, because you can stand here, watch your fresh tank fill. When it's as full as you want, you'll be able to turn the switch off. But it's the same function as the one that's outside in the service compartment. And again, your water pump will be turned on here. It's going to pressure up and stop. It's not going to come back on until you create a demand. It's an on-demand water pump. Generator can be started and stopped from here, but if you don't have the red button in this compartment pushed when you go to start it, it's going to let you know that you need to turn the little red button on. Simply push the red button and you'll be able to start or stop it from here. This also has the automated generator start. Now that's the menu that's right here next to my finger. We're going to press that button, and you have several parameters that you can set that will allow the generator to come on its own. There are two triggers. You have a low voltage trigger that you can set, and you also have an HVAC load trigger, so that'll make the generator come on anytime the air conditioner needs to come on. You can set the quiet and start time. Some of the camping sites that you'll stay at will limit the time that you can use the generator. And then of course, these are the charging parameters. We'll go back home. In between the home screen and the generator start, we have the light options. We'll turn the outside lights on here, and we'll turn the lights off, and you'll note that the outside lights are not controlled from the master, only the interior lights. One other thing I want to mention is you can turn several of these lights off, and it will take a snapshot of that, and when you turn it back on, those lights will stay off. Again, to reset everything, just hold your finger on the on button. Everything comes on just like that. Next, we have your HVAC. Obviously, the air conditioner is the first option. You want to make sure that your target temperature is colder than ambient, and that you are providing it with an AC service that's like the shore power or at least the generator running. This is not going to be run off of the inverter, even though it does have lithium batteries. This is your little icon for your air conditioner, and when we go back to the home screen, you'll note that the icon is here on that screen as well. Now we also have heat pumps. You need to turn the target temperature up over ambient, and once it switches over to the heat pump, the icon will change from this little snowflake to these 3 lines here. There is also a propane furnace. Now I want to mention that the heat pump and the furnace can be run at the same time. So if you need to heat this van faster and you're plugged into your shore service and you have plenty of propane, run them both at the same time. Not a problem doing so. Please note that the icon has changed, and again on the home screen it's also different. Let me go ahead and turn these back off. Now I will mention that the heat pump will go off pretty quickly, but the furnace takes 2 minutes before it shuts off. It has a cool down cycle, and I do recommend that you let that finish before you take the power away from the van. It's simply blowing regular temperature air through the ducting to make sure there's not any hot spots. And then the fan on the overhead unit also has 2 speeds, so low and high on that. So that's your HVAC. Next we have your slide control. Now you can open the awning from here as well, and the skylight. If you'll back up just a bit. We're going to open the skylight here. And I am holding my finger on that button. If you let go, it just stops. Now the skylight is actually a hole out into the world there. So because that's true, you've got a couple of screens. You've got your nightshade here, and then you have a day screen right there. So you can enjoy the skylight and keep the bugs out of it. I want to mention that you can actually close it and open it from this switch here as well. But again, you'll have to hold your finger on there. All right, now we're going to slide the awning, I'm sorry, not the awning, the slide out back in. When you do so, you have to hold your finger on the button. If I were to let go, it's going to stop. So you'll have to hold your finger on it the whole time. And I also want to mention that there's a repeater panel over here. It's got the exact same functions. We're going to find 2 more of these in the galley and also in the bathroom. Now, if you'll look over here on the side of the couch, we're going to see a couple of switches. There is a vertical switch back here. This is going to extend the foot. And you have one of these on either side. And then towards the front you have a horizontal switch. This is going to lay the bed down, or the couch rather. And that'll allow you to draw the Murphy bed down. Now, towards the rear of this side of the couch is going to be a little lever that you need to pull at the same time as you're pulling the bed out. So I've got my right hand on that lever here. I'm going to reach up with my left hand and grab the bed, and as I pull the bed, I'm pulling that lever to release it. Now, of course, you want to make sure you've moved all the pillows, and that'll help it lay down flatter. But just for demonstration purposes, you've got your headboard here. These lights are turned on at the base. 2 different brightnesses. This is the entertainment, I'm sorry, not the entertainment, this is the slide out shade. So you've got the entertainment shade behind the television and the slide out shade here as well. Those windows back there will open also. We're going to return the couch, I'm sorry, the Murphy bed rather. And you make sure to pull on the lever for the latch as it drops back into place. And then again, we'll just stand the couch right back up. We're going to head over here into the galley. Your galley has another repeater panel for the Firefly here. Under here is a little trash can. The shade in the galley is going to be manual. So we're just going to grab this part here and pull it straight down. And again, the window will open if you turn this crank right here. When you're going to light the range, we'll take the knob here, we'll turn the dot that says light and match it up with this dot right here. Click the igniter. And you'll have to click here a few times before the air gets out. Just like so. Now if you've been cooking on these and they are nice and hot, give them a chance to cool before you close this lid. This lid is made of tempered glass, and if it gets too hot, it could possibly shatter. Excuse me. Underneath the sink cover, you do have a drain plug, as well as a little rack that's in here. I will mention the kitchen sink. Left is going to be hot, and right is going to be cold. Various drawers. In here we have a little 3-foot propane line for that port outside. There's also the wand for the outside shower. Beneath those items, you're going to find your plug for your 15 amp drop. So you'll plug this in over in your service compartment and be able to plug in a standard extension cord to a regular wall socket. It's going to allow you to keep the van charged up. You'll be able to turn the lights on and use just about everything inside except for the air conditioner or the heat pump. Over here you've got a little cutting board that's going to pull out and give you a little extra counter space. Below that, silverware caddy, and in here I've hidden a couple of items. So this is going to be the remote for the forward radio, which we'll go over at the end. There's also an HDMI splitter associated with the television. And then this is the remote for the backup camera display. We've got an AC power tester here. This was the box for the remotes for the shades. And this is the little stand for that. Remote for the TV. Remote for the Bose soundbar, which of course is the biggest remote. And then we've got a couple of tools here. A ratchet and an extension, and you'll use these to return the awning. Outside on the awning in the forward area is a cap that can be removed, and if you've lost power to the van or if for some reason the awning motor has quit, you'll be able to manually crank this back in. Simply remove the cap that you see at the forward end. Right there underneath that cap is that little 3/8 inch hex, and just use your ratchet to draw the awning back in. This is actually the cap for the shore cord. The end that plugs into the van can be covered with this, and it'll keep dirt and debris out of it as you're driving around. The refrigerator here is AC/DC. So when you're plugged into your shore service, it's running off of alternating current. Pull that, it's going to automatically switch over to direct current. You do not have to do anything to make that happen. You do have little travel tabs here that are keeping these doors shut as you travel down the road. You do want to make sure that you have them both secure so they don't come flying open and your food go everywhere. In here you're going to find a knob that's 0 through 7. That is how you'll turn the refrigerator on and of course turn the temperature up and down. 0 will be the coldest. 7, no, I'm sorry, I've got it backwards. 0 is off and 7 is the coldest. Now this refrigerator takes 2 to 3 hours to get completely cold, but because it runs off of batteries, you'll be able to head down the road with this turned on as long as you leave the master disconnect switch by the entry door on. I also want to mention again, these are adjustable shelves in your pantry. Make sure you put all the heavy stuff where it's not going to fall. The microwave above both of these has a convection and a broiler feature. It is going to default as a microwave, and again, it's only available when you're providing it with either shore service or the generator. The convection and the broiler feature, which are these buttons here, is actually a fan inside at the back and the element here at the top. That's what the little pan and rack are for. Make sure you remove those when you're using the microwave. So when you're traveling, you want to make sure that you have the door secured in the open position with the latch at the bottom. There's a little magnet here on the door, but this magnet is not strong enough to keep the door shut as you're headed down the road. But it will keep the door shut, of course, when you're using the restroom. All right, B, let's see if we can squeeze in here. We've got a little leather case here that's got the front window shades. And then, of course, you'll notice how the toilet has a bidet. This toilet flushes with the lever on the right-hand side. A partial step of that lever is going to fill that bowl. Full step flushes. At the very top, you have a fantastic exhaust fan, and you'll find another one of these over the galley. They both operate exactly the same, and these fans are fully powered. The switch that opens the lid is the switch right here by the knob. You must have the speed on 1 through 3. You turn it to 0, it stops. We'll turn the blade on with the switch here. And I do want to mention that you can't see real well. There is a little thermostat that will allow the fan blade to come on and off as the temperature crosses the threshold here. Again, these have built-in rain sensors. So if they gather enough moisture, they're going to close on their own. When they do, they will shut themselves off. You want to make sure you're not driving with the vents open. The lids are made of plastic, and over time the wind is going to cause some damage as they shake. The shower door has a little plastic clip in between. This is for travel. It's going to keep the doors shut. If these doors slam into each other, at best they're going to knock each other off the tracks. At worst, if they hit hard enough, they could possibly shatter. So just make sure you have them secure when you're driving. Coming over to this side, one more repeater panel for your Firefly system. Same options as all the rest. All right. So below that is the water heater control. It's set to 130 degrees. Normally they should be set about 118, maybe 120. This is an automatic or an on-demand water heater system. So all we have to do is create a demand here, turn this knob to the left. Once you turn the faucet on and the water starts flowing through it, it's going to come on its own. This one will not give you any indicator that it's working, but you can tell when it's turned off because it says off. Very simple. We'll head back up to the front. We'll go over the dash. Before we get to the dash, I do want to mention that this Airstream has 2 radios. So you've got the standard dash radio that comes in all the Interstates and the Atlases, and then you have another one up here that's a Sony radio that's powered from the house batteries. So this is the one that you'll use when you're stopped and you're not driving down the road. Again, this one can be paired with your phones. You're going to push the button right up here that says SRC until you get to BT audio, and then you'll select it with the round dial. From there, you'll simply press it until it says set pairing. And there's a little code that's real hard to see, but it's right here. It starts with DSX, and that's what you'll see on your phone. Once you've got it paired up, you'll be able to use whatever music that you've got stored in your phone. We're going to give it back to the tuner. And to turn this off, you must hold your finger on this SRC button until the lights go out. And that is fully turned off. Coming down here, I want to mention that you've got your European style parking brake on this model. So we'll pull this up, engaging the parking brake, and then we can push it down, and that will allow us to swivel the seat. The seat swivel is really far down there. When you are swiveling the seats in these vans, only go 180 degrees. Do not go 360 degrees. There's a wire that feeds up to the airbag on the side here, and you'll stretch that wire tight, and if you stretch it too tight, you'll actually disconnect it. Now, you have your dash display here, and it's controlled through these buttons here. This is going to be your back button. You know what we'll do is turn the ignition on. One more time. And now we'll have access to that display. Engine oil level is full. Further back, you're at 173 miles. That's in the trip. We're going to go over here to service. Select with this button here. Any warning messages will be displayed here. Obviously you have none. The diesel emissions fluid level is displayed here. Currently 100% full. There is a service due in 725 days, and it's going to be a Mercedes service, not an Airstream service. We'll skip the engine oil level. We'll go to the particulate filter. Now, in this exhaust system is a diesel particulate filter. Once that filter reaches 100% full, it's going to do an automatic regen cycle. You need to do your best to continue to drive during that regen cycle, because when you turn the vehicle off, it will reset, and that will prolong the amount of time that it takes for this particulate filter to clean itself. That's going to be the last on the service. Next is going to be the drive assist. So the Mercedes are set up to give you some road warnings as you're headed down the road, and you'll actually set those parameters to the right on the main display. Trip odometer here. Fuel mileage, current and average. 2 trip odometers, as well as a digital speedometer. Navigation can be displayed here, as well as the radio, the media, and the telephone, but the telephone will be operated from the controls on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. Settings, so we have two options here. In vehicle, you'll have the sensitivity for the windshield wiper. Standard, highly sensitive, less sensitive. Display and operation will give you the option of putting the diesel emissions fluid gauge on the bottom of this display all the time. I do recommend you leave it in reserve. It's going to come on about halfway and you'll still have nearly 5,000 miles worth of range when the reserve comes on. All right, we're going to transition over to the main display. I'm going to press the home button here. All the way to the left, we'll connect your phone. Go to connect device. This is the little code that you'll see on your phone, and then what you do, you'll be able to use the phone through the controls on the steering wheel. Navigation. This is a Garmin-based nav or a Mercedes nav. The key to that is to enter everything on the same line. So start with the number, then the street, and then often it'll propagate or populate, and then you can just select that. Of course, that's what I was after. The radio is pre-wired for Sirius satellite. You can mute it by pressing that button right there. Next, when you have a device connected, you will be able to control that from here. This is your transmission temperature, battery voltage, and this is the engine battery. And then of course the engine oil temperature is here. There is a horsepower and a torque display right there. Fuel consumption right there. The owner's manual that comes with this, the paper manual, can be downloaded to this display as well. Apps, there is a web browser, and this has the ability to connect to Wi-Fi. If you have it connected, you will be able to surf the internet from this option here. Finally, the settings. Now we have the traction control and the lane departure, and the default for these is going to be on. You can turn them off. Driver assistance over here on this display is set up right here. Vehicle options, basically does the door lock automatically, does it honk when you lock the door. There is also a gas station search on the navigation. These are the lighting options. So, do the lights come on when you unlock the door? How long do the lights stay on after you've closed and locked the doors? In system, this is how you set up this display. So, lots of options, turning the Wi-Fi on and off, changing the time and date. I do recommend staying out of the language unless you're very good with foreign languages, and then you can, of course, change the units anytime you need to head north of the border. Below that, the air conditioning control is very intuitive. You do have an automatic option. We'll turn it off by turning the fan switch all the way down. Please note the little flashing red light. This is your travel warning. Remember, the triggers for this are the steps being down, the slide out being out, the awning being out, the skylight being open, and also the stabilizer jacks down. So this van has up to 5 different triggers for that. But if it's flashing and beeping at you as you start off, look at the display on the Firefly and it will let you know what you have inadvertently left out. 4 key fobs come with this. You've got 2 keys for the door and 2 keys for the deadbolt on the door. And then the gray keys are going to be for the golf club storage compartment. Every once in a while, if you haven't used one of these fobs in a while, it will ask you to place it in the home slot before it'll work. The home slot is going to be way down here at the bottom. Right there below everything. Of course, you've got your mini USB charge ports. This is an AC plug, 115 volt, and your round DC port right there. We're going to find your table tops and the table legs underneath the lounge here. Pull up the center. There is a backpack looking device in here. Table legs, 2 table tops in there. These table legs are really easy to install. Notice this large end here is threaded. It's going to simply screw in to the little foot post right there. There is another post underneath the lounge. Make sure the table leg isn't there when you're sliding the slide back in. Thank you for watching our walkthrough video and have a great day.
Thanks for watching our video. If you have any questions or have any recommendations on content you'd like to see, make sure to drop a comment in the comment section below. If you enjoy our content, give us a like, and be sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks again from Airstream DFW.